record. We're going to record the session because for digital leaders, for people who can't attend, they can see the recording. And secondly, it also helps me to, when I review it, to see if I can improve the presentation and for the future. Okay, so let me just tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to talk to you about digital transformation, what it is, some of the challenges and impediments, and then I'm going to talk to you about a platform that we've developed which helps organizations re-energize or kickstart their digital transformation programs. And it's all about how you use technology to enable business change and bridging that gap between business and IT. The webinar session is quite compact, so we'll go at quite a pace. But as I said, it'll be available for as a recording, so you can review it at your own leisure. I'm going to talk a little bit and put some context around digital transformation and some of the things that I've heard from a lot of people. I've done something like 20 plus webinars over the last 12 months. And I have gathered a lot of survey results as a consequence. And this is a specialism that I work in. So I'm going to show you some of those results and how that helped determine developing this platform for digital transformation training. I'm going to try to get you guys involved. There's a couple of polls. There's one around digital business models and where your organization might be according to against 3 models. Again, I'm going to lay down foundations of digital transformation. Then I'm going to go into the training service and give you a demo of the platform. And I'm hoping to cram that all in before 11 o'clock. So as I said, we'll go at pace and we'll take it from there. And I've got a little bit of a case study as well of what one client has been saying about the training platform and the delivery of that service. And we'll get your views at the end. Okay, just a little bit about me. I've been in IT and digital transformation for a long time. As you can see on this slide, I've been in public and private sector. I've also worked in management consultancy. I've also worked in industry. And about 5 years ago, I decided to build my own brand out, which is called Innovative Quality Solutions, IQS for short. And I've been doing a lot of interim assignments in the IT and digital transformation space. And as you can see, I've been an interim CIO, head of technology and experience. And that's really inspired me to build this platform out and provide it as a service. And we launched this service earlier this year, and I'm on to my 3rd client as we speak, and there's others emerging in the pipeline. So I think it's a real value add as you move forward in your change programs. So a little bit of context, digital disruption. I think COVID-19 has been a disruptor. Before COVID-19, the things I was talking to senior people about were about how technology is being adopted at pace, and that's disrupting organizations in their market sectors, and how you need to keep pace with technology innovation and bring that disruptive technology to change your business model so that you can get competitive advantage. But COVID-19 has just accelerated that pace of change, I think. And all the survey results support that. Organizations have had to move online, we've had to work remotely. And here's the PwC survey results of CEOs in March this year. And as you can see on the far left-hand side, the biggest pillar for investment going forward is digital transformation. As you can see that 34% said there'll be an moderate increase between 3 to 9% in spend, and 49% there'll be a significant increase, i.e. greater than 10% of revenues spend on digital change. So if you're in that sector, in that area of specialism, it's a good place to be. But it's not easy. And this is a LinkedIn survey from February that says, well, who drove digital transformation in your company? Was it the CEO, CIO, CTO, while it was COVID-19? And I think we can all kind of resonate with that. Digital transformation is not easy. It's difficult because of the need to have the right leadership, the right culture around change. And there are four kind of key pillars that I've been thinking about and developing over time. And the four key things are one around making sure you got significant planning in place. So you know what your scope is, you know the approach, you've done developed a roadmap through co-collaboration and ideation, and you've kind of architected what you're trying to change. You need to know what you're going to change, and you need to architect it, and you need to get people bought into it. And that's where you really need transformational leadership in place. And transformational leadership is not just people going, yes, this is a great idea, but there are champions that are communicating this to the troops across your organization, creating networks of change and understanding that it's all customer led. The biggest thing that I think around digital transformation is whilst we tend to be very internally focused and we kind of can become very siloed. It's really around understanding the customer needs and what the external factors are causing the disruption or the change in your market and to your organization. Then how can you adapt to that? And then understanding what you're going to do, making sure you can realize the benefits and continually give those benefits realization back to the business and to your customers. And then third pillar there is around how you deliver it. Delivery is not easy because it's a journey for digital change. It's a journey because you need to take people with you. And that's where you need that inspirational leadership with a vision and mission. And one of the other areas just to support all that is that to get to that target state or target operating model, the vision for the future, you need to um, develop a culture of continuous change, communications, and have the skills and capabilities internally or resource them externally to support the change you're going on. And so stakeholder management in terms of understanding the power and interest is absolutely paramount. Um, so I'm just admitting people as they're coming in as well, just for your information. So if I stop a little bit there, just to make sure everybody's all right. Um, so with those four pillars, I went out to the market and I started looking at, well, I asked some questions. I said, well, what are your key impediments to digital transformation? Again, this is a survey that was done in December, January 2021. And as you can see, culture there, the lack of digital behavior or mindset and leadership is really key it's a key impediment. But there are some other areas there, making sure that we are not so risk averse, we innovate, we experiment, and needing to make sure that you can reduce your legacy system spend and making sure IT can enable that change as well. Some more results. Again, I said, well, why do your digital transformation initiatives fail? And the key one for me there is you can see that getting the organization and to understand why it's imperative to be different, because as we move along with time, things change. We live in a very uh, volatile world, economically as well as through changes at a world level, through pandemics to business changes to change in leaderships to change in technology, and we need to have a culture of change, continuous change, or you're adapting to what's happening to your marketplace and your customer needs. Again, a little word cloud that came out from a webinar that we did in March, April this year. As you can say, culture is so important, and managing that, any resistance to change. I don't think there's usually resistance to change. What I tend to see is people usually have hopes or fears, hopes that the change is going to add value. They've maybe gone through many legacy changes and it hasn't quite delivered the benefits, or fears because it's impacting them and their role, and they're fearful of that, or they've not been through a change like this, and therefore they want to understand the steps. And if you demystify the steps and the process you're going to go through, the barriers tend to go down. So those are some of the survey results. And what we also did was to look at what kind of operating models emerged. So, I've been talking about market changes, real rapid adoption of technology. And here's the three models that we've developed. There's the traditional organization, which tends to be quite siloed, is offering some expertise to the marketplace, has linear business processes, it's got standard waterfall kind of development, underpinned by technologies, and tends to have IT infrastructure on premise. And they really focused on digitalization, not digital transformation, and they're really trying to get efficiency to reduce waste through lean. There's a second model that's emerged, and by the way, these are just three models that we put together. There might be others. So there's usually the traditional organization is trying to transform some of those elements to become different and aligning to customer and market needs. But they try to acquire digitally. They try to acquire a digital native, and that does give some value and benefits and some customer experience. Um, and the third model is the one that's really transformative. They're really enhanced, they provide an enhanced online customer experience. They're using data and analytics to understand strategically and operationally what's going on in their business. They have different ways of operating and delivering their services and products, and they're continually innovating through the analytics that they use. And they're focused on value creation for their customers. And they have various modes of delivery in terms of their infrastructure. So you can have software as a service to infrastructure as a service to platform as a service. Um, and they tend to, as I said, have enhanced customer experience. So as a quick poll, I'd really love to hear from you guys to tell me where against these three operating models you are in your organization. Now, if you're a consultant, you can answer it in the context of the organization I'm working with, this is where they typically are. Or if you're in an organization at the moment, being public and private sector, are you model one? Are you model two? Or are you model three? Or are you transitioning from one to two or two to three? So if you can, you'll see on this slide, you can see a barcode. This is Slido. So if you go to use your laptop or your mobile device, if you go to use that barcode as a pin number of #683903, and if you can, you'll have a set of options of 1 to 6 there, yeah, of the traditional model, the hybrid model, the transform model. Are you going from the traditional to the hybrid, hybrid to the transformed, or are you way above that in a digitally mature organization beyond the transformed? And I'd love to have your inputs. I'm just going to switch screen. So if you bear with me so I can go to Slido to show you the results as they come in. So bear with me. Can you see my results? Right, let's present. And here we go. So, right, as you can see, there's a number of people who are voting. That's absolutely fantastic. What we can see is many are in the traditional. At the moment, what we're seeing a lot of in the traditional and in between the traditional and the hybrid. Okay, that's between model 1 and 2, and some and many are still in the traditional. Very few votes for the digitally mature or the transformed operating model. This is fantastic. Please continue to vote. I'll give you another minute or so. It'd be great to get some more responses. I know we're up to, there's at least 15 participants at the moment. So if you can, there's the barcode that allows you to be on your desktop, your laptop, or your mobile device to be able to get to Slido, put in the PIN number. And we have another poll at the end of this webinar. So it'd be great for you. Don't close your app down. Don't close Slido down, because we've got another poll coming a little bit later. So please continue to vote. Thank you. We've got a couple more. That's great. I'm going to give it a little bit more so that people can just I can get steer. Okay. So I think the consensus is really um, out there, right? So most organizations are either in the traditional operating model, or they're trying to transition into a hybrid enterprise and trying to transform some elements of them in their digital change. Thank you for that. Thank you for voting. I'm going to switch back, and that's great context for me to understand where people are in their organizations. So we'll use that learning a little bit later as we go into the transformation simulation training. So um, why was that important? Well, I, as I said, I've done a number of things in the webinar so far. I've talked a little bit about digital transformation, why it's complex, some of the foundations, and some of the business models. And as I've been in my consulting or my industry roles as a CIO and so forth, I decided that it's really difficult to get your transformation program up and going, or it's difficult to really, as you've shown, it's difficult to understand what the future could look like. We always, um, in I mean, I've worked in a number of transformation programs where they drift, or they lose momentum, they lose energy, or they end up getting closed because they're not delivering the value. And the results show that 70 to 80% of digital initiatives either fail or get closed off very quickly. And I think it's important right at the beginning of your transformation, when you're deciding, planning, and you're scoping, to understand what the art of the possible is. So understanding what the benefits and the strategic plays and the tactical plays that you could make in your organization, but actually simulating and understanding what those scenarios could be as you mature your IT function and your department for your business. And that's why and from my experience, I decided that I wanted to build out simulation training, and I wanted to do it in a virtual way. And that came about because obviously because of the pandemic, and that was the biggest driver to build out a simulation platform and training, so it helps senior executives and below to understand and play in a safe, risk-averse environment, um, undergo the training in a safe, non-risk threatening way with the teams, so that they can experience what it could feel like and the journey to go on for your digital transformation. So what we did is we developed this platform. It's called DTX, Digital Transformation Experience. And what you can see on this slide, it's all about experiential learning. It's all about simulating a number of scenarios as a company in a marketplace. And you go through a cycle of learning. As you can see in the middle there, there's some purple circles. You consider what your strategic maneuvers could be, you implement those, and then you observe the impact of your strategies on a number of dashboards. And then dashboards could be related to a number of KPIs, be they revenue growth, in revenue loss, for instance, and customer experience scores. And you review those and you cycle that through for a number of players. And what the value and the benefits for doing this, it really helps with buy-in and support for the change that you're going on, and it gives leaders and people across IT and the business the ability to understand what those maneuvers could be before you actually go and do them in your own organization. So you're playing it in a safe environment. And what I'm going to do is just talk you through a typical day and then actually show you a demo of the platform. Um, so the typical agenda for a half day, 3/4 of a day digital transformation simulation training is about 4 or 5 hours of virtual play. And what we do is we go through a number of quarters. Obviously, there's some introductions. Everybody knows themselves, gets to know themselves. We've set up up front I've worked with the sponsor to understand the context of the organization, the problem statement, the outcomes that the organization is looking for that in terms of the training, be that best practice, understanding best practices, under building team ethos, or breaking silos, or energizing the team for the change. And what we do through 4 quarters of play. So 4 quarters is 12 rounds of gameplay. In the first round, we look about how you stabilize your business through looking at your critical systems. In quarter 2, 3 more rounds of play, we look about how we can bring about efficiency in your organization. And in Q3, we then start thinking about introducing new services. And then we bring about how development operations, i.e. the stability and agility part of the organization, can need to work together. And then we kind of sum up and wrap up. And as you go through those rounds, there's lots of wow moments around learning and experiential reviews. And each quarter we review what we learned as an individual or as a team, and there might be some breakout rooms, and then we actually review it in terms of the context that whilst we've learned it virtually in a safe environment, how could we apply that to your own organization and take that forward? Um, the concept of the simulation, kind of the approach, it takes in, we need to consider the stakeholders at the C level, all the way to the strategic demand and operational demand that comes in from the business, that feeds into IT and technology. And we look at the components of agility by moving from kind of a waterfall to an agile way of working. We look at the stability part of operations, from the service desk to building best practices around ITSM and DevOps, and that transition from development to operations, and how that actually gives value in terms of products and services, and how that manifests itself in those dashboards I talked about around customer experience, revenue growth, profitability, and customer experience, and revenue lost through incidents. And there's also lots of customer feedback loops brought in. And we go through just a little bit more detail before we actually go into the demo. What you can see, here's the life cycle of change: typically plan, build, develop, deploy, and run. In the red areas, in the first 2 quarters of the game, i.e. in the stability world, we look at IT operations and look at how we support the underlying infrastructure. How do we enhance customer experience through making the service desk into a more effective and efficient support mechanism for end users and customers? So we start thinking about first time fix, how to bring in knowledge management, how to get to root cause for problem management, how do we maybe bring in change in smaller, lower risk changes. We talk about high availability, and thinking about focusing and prioritization on critical systems and platforms. And that's the red arrow that you can see in the first 2 quarters of play. In the second 2 quarters of the simulation game, what we focus in is on how you can get your business demand satisfied in a quicker, faster way by bringing in more agile development techniques and tools. And whilst you might be bringing in an agile, you can't compromise quality. So what you're trying to introduce is agile ways of working, breaking things down in small iterations, but introducing things like test driven development, peer code review, unit testing, integration testing. So, and then what we bring together, and that's the blue kind of arrow, and the blue arrow and the red arrow, need to work together, because IT typically has a finite capacity and resources, and how you can bridge the two and get business to understand the constraints and the challenges they have in enhancing customer experience in the red area, but then bringing in new demand through new services and features, and getting that balancing act, and all related to business needs. Okay, so I'm going to just whiz through a few slides to set the context for the simulation and the demo I'm going to go through. In the demo or in the simulation, you are global air. So Global Air is you are the transformation director for Global Air. And in that market sector, you're one of 250 businesses. And you're going to be measured on how you mature your organization from a technology and a digital perspective through operating margin. You're at 250th of 250 organizations because you're quite immature at the moment. We chose the airline industry because the airline industry was pre-COVID, really software intensive, and it was really trying to improve its customer experience and the digital journey. And people either were traveling for work or were going on holiday, and it really resonates with people. And because there's lots of legacy IT in the airline industry, there's a massive change going on, and there will be as we get back post-pandemic. The airline industry will be going through significant change. So in the simulation, your Global Air, your task is as the transformation director to improve the delivery of new and existing services for Global Air. You're going to implement those strategies, and you're going to use elements of service management and DevOps to bring about that change. And your aim after 12 rounds or 4 quarters of gameplay is to become in the top 50 in the leaderboard. And what you're doing with that cohort, so you can be groups of 5 or 10 with your colleagues and senior people. You'll be competing not only in the market, but you're also competing against your colleagues. So like I said, there could be 5 or 10 people in that training session. So it's really fun, and it's really competitive, but it does bring across all the elements of transformational change, from using digital technology to enable the business to go on that digital change. So as you quite rightly pointed out to me through the Pulse survey, a lot of organizations are traditional organizations. So the journey we take through is going from that traditional organization to past the hybrid to becoming that digitally native, if you want to call it, that transformed organization in the simulation, as I try to describe, and the operations and this agility and stability parts of change. In the game, you're basically from the KPIs. As I said, there's 4 KPIs: operating margin, customer experience, revenue loss for instance, and benefits from new releases. Your aim is to reduce the revenue that you lose through IT incidents, and you're trying to introduce benefits through new function and features in new releases. The approach for the game is that in the consider phase, and think of this, if you think of COBOL, plan, do, check, act cycles, you consider your strategy options, you implement them, you observe them being played out, and you review the performance of those that impact through those KPIs and dashboards. And the game cycle is facilitated from somebody typically like me, who will support the attendees for any challenges they have and the experiential learning as we bring people together at the end of each quarter. You have 3 steps typically in the game. You need to understand the current situation. You identify the root causes of the challenge that Global Air has at that time, and look at all the stakeholder data that's provided. And then you go and implement your strategies. And those strategies come from the reports and the information you have. So you might be a software report, a hardware, or a dependency issue. You might then want to upgrade your software. You might want to bring in failover. You might want to isolate a service through a microservice so you can better tackle its challenges it might be having from a configuration point of view, as an example. So we're going to play quarter one. Quarter one, at quarter one, at the beginning of month 1, the operating margin for Global Air is minus 3.3. We want to, at the end of quarter 1, month 3, we want to turn it to get to about 3.7. Our customer experience is about 64. We're going to try to get it up to 68. And the revenue that we've lost, for instance, is about 11 million. We're trying to get it reduce that to 5.5. And remember, we're only playing 3 rounds because of time. We usually go for 4 quarters, 12 rounds. And so there's significant time play, and hence it's a half day, 3/4 of a day of actual gameplay. So let's play and let's see um, if I can show you how the platform works. And so bear with me as I bring it up. Uh, share my screen. So hopefully you should be able to see my screen. It says, welcome to DTX Online Simulation. Can somebody just give me a quick in the chat function to say that they can see the screen? To say yes, they can see that. Yeah, thank you, Suzanne. Thank you very much. Right, so you can see the platform. What we're going to do, there's the admin function that's for me as a demo version. We're going to play the standalone. And what's happened when we're going to press that button, we're going to play month one. It's going to see it play out. So what you can see now in the background is all the algorithms and the servers booting up for all the scenarios that we've created in the simulation game. And if I press, let's play month one gets played out, and you'll see on the screen, what you can see on the left-hand side is the leaderboard. You can see global air. It's shooting down the leaderboard of the 250 in the airline industry. In the middle, you can see all your live services. You've got your front, middle, and back office services. So back office tend to be HR, ERP. And on the right-hand side, you can see the global infrastructure on-premise cloud. You can see a customer experience source, some chat ops going on, a development pipeline. And you can see here the total number of instances, 45. That's played out month one. Let's have a look at our KPIs. I pressed the view reports button, and what you can see is the operating margin for global areas 3.3, customer satisfaction 64, a lot of revenue lost through incidents, and there's nothing around new releases because we're not bringing in anything at the moment new. At the top, you got a number of buttons. Each month, you have $50,000 to spend on what improvements you want to make or upgrades you want to make. Now we've limited the budget because that really brings about a dynamic around prioritization. And in reality, most IT departments and functions only have a limited budget per month, per quarter, per year. Okay. As you can see in the middle, there's a plot there. What you can see, if I just show you, is that the green line is the revenue, the red line is the fixed cost of the business. So the aim is to get the green line always above the red line, so you get operating margin profit. I'm going to press the insights button because that's going to tell you that what that screen tells you is what the customers and stakeholders in the business are saying. And this gives you the context of the information that you as a player in the game need to absorb to make your strategic maneuvers. So here you can see the CEO is talking about global air to be in the top 200. You'd like it to be in the top 200 with operating margin of 3.7. The CFO is saying that by the end of quarter one, let's get to the top 200 and let's reduce the revenue that we're losing through incidents down to 5.5. It's around 11 million at the moment. And you can see DevOps is, the dev team is, they're really looking for further development in technology within the operations space. And if you look at TechOps, it's saying the service desk is reporting some prioritization issues around incidents, particularly critical services. And importantly, the customers are reporting quite a poor overall experience with the online booking system. So you got to remember, I'm demoing this, but I'm playing it out at the same time. So I would be you. So if you were playing out the game, this is what I'd be absorbing in terms of the context of the organization and the challenge that Global Air have. And if I press the strategy button, what you can see here are all these services that I showed you on the home screen and the experience that they bring about. We can always filter that according to the revenue that they generate. And you can see the online booking generates the most revenue per day, and it gives a lot of customer satisfaction. And there's a prioritization. And as you can see, you can introduce a failover for 25,000. You can upgrade the software for 15,000, or you can introduce a microservice for 30,000. So, so we've got some insights. which sets the context for Q1. We know what global air is. We're trying to get into top 200. But I also know that the customers are saying there's something wrong with the online booking. But I don't know if it's a hardware problem, is it a software problem? And I haven't prioritized my IT services. So I'm going to go to the reports button, because reports, if we go to service performance, the service performance button is important, because it shows you all your services, and it also will give you a little bit more information if you want to purchase them through the availability report or the problem management report. Now, I'm going to purchase the availability report for 20,000 of my 50,000, so that it gives me an idea of which of my critical services, and I do know that on the online booking is a critical service, and customers are really suffering with it. I can see how available they are or not. So again, I filter my services according to the revenue that they generate on a daily basis. And actually, what I can see with online booking, it's only generating 41,000. So there's a delta on what it should be generating and what it is. And you can see the low availability of that service. And there are others like payments, ticketing are not performing as they should be. One of the other things I'm going to do is I'm also going to purchase the problem management report, because whilst I know there's low availability, I don't really know what the root cause of the problems are. So let me press problem management report. Hopefully that'll give me, yeah, for 15,000. So I've only got 15,000 left on my 50. Well, this again, if I filtered my services against revenue generated, what it's telling me is that the online booking, there's a massive delta from what it should generate and what it is, low availability, and there's some software issues. And my payment system, there's some software issues. My ticketing platform has some hardware problems. My reservation system is as a dependency. There's a couple of dependencies, so I need to think about microservices. So what I'm going to do in terms of round two, remember round one was given free in the game. For round two, I'm going to go into my, having armed with this knowledge, I'm going to go to the strategy function to make my plays. And remember, I filtered according to the most revenue generating service. I know that the online booking had a software problem, so I'm going to try to upgrade the software. And it spent all my budget. And the other thing I'm going to do is for all these high priority services that generate $100,000 per month, I'm going to prioritize them high. And why wouldn't you prioritize them? Because they are the ones that are generating value to customers. And if you can see in the customer experience column, but also they generate value to you as a business, i.e. Global Air. So you as the attendee playing the game, I would suggest you prioritize in the services that generate 50,000 and above, between 50 and 100,000. I'm going to make them medium, and anything below 50,000, I'm going to leave them low. And remember, there's 3 pages of services that Global Air deliver to the end user customers. I'm going to now press save and play month 2. What this is showing on your screen is my prioritization and the software upgrade I've done to online booking. And remember, from the context, customers are experiencing real issues with the online booking system. Hopefully this will make a big impact not only to customers but to Global Air as a business. So I'm going to play month 2. Again, what's happening in the background, I've made those plays, and the servers and the scenarios with all the data that we've used from years of experience that we generated. We are now playing those scenarios out, and we're going to watch month 2. Let's see what happens to Global Air in the leaderboard. We were 250th. What you can see, we're shooting up to 242 at the moment. After day 15, we're up to 230 now in day 18. You can see the customer experience score is going up. We've shot up to 213. After month 2, we're up to 213. Remember, the target was 200. Let's have a look at view reports so we can see our KPIs. You can see our KPIs. Well, remember we were minus 3.3. Our operating margin's gone to 2.3. Our customer satisfaction score is 64. We've reduced the revenue loss for instance down to 6.75 from 11 million. And we're at 211 in the organization, in the market context against other airlines. So a really positive impact from prioritization and some software upgrades. So we'll play one more month, which is month 3, and will take us to end of Q1, and we'll review where we've got to end the Q1. So I'm going to go back to service performance. And as you can see, I'm going to filter again according to the revenue that was generated. You can see, look at the online booking system. It's actually generating the revenue it should do. It's 100% available. But what I can see, there's some of the systems, which are the business critical ones, are still not at 100%. And we've got an issue with payments. So I know there's a software issue. I could do an upgrade there. There's an issue with ticketing platform. I could do a hardware upgrade. And remember, I've got $50,000 again. Each round, you get $50,000 again. So I am going to, so payments and ticket, so payments is software and ticketing is hardware. So if I go to my strategy play, I'm going to go to payments. You can see I'll filter again. Payments is a software issue that's going to cost me 15,000. Ticketing was a hardware issue that's going to cost me 25,000. And I think those will be really important plays because they are high revenue generating, high customer experience, impactful, and they are critical to the business and customers. And I think by playing that out, I'm going to have a significant impact on my business, profitability, reducing revenue from incidents and customer experience. I'm playing month 3 out, and let's see what the impact of that is as well. And what we can see, month 3, let's play it out. Let's see what happened to the KPIs. We were remember the target was to be the top 200. We're up to 207, 206, 205, 202 after day 15 of the month. We're hit the top 200. Well, we've reached our goal. The number of incidents is still not, it's reduced from 45 to 40, as we can see here. And let's have a look at our KPIs. Well, operating margin, we smashed our target. Our target was 3.7. We've got to 4.6. Our customer satisfaction, we wanted to get it to 68. We got it to 65. We have also met our target about reducing revenue for instance. We got it below 5.5 million, and we're up at 193 in the leaderboard. So at this stage, I would go on to month 4 if I wanted to play more, but I will do a review with the attendees and the cohort in terms of what they've learned. So what I'm going to do is switch back to my slides and tell you what I would do at the end of Q1. So here's the happy path. This is what I did for months 2 and 3, and this is what attendees would do. You remember with the 50,000, they had the ability to purchase reports, they had the ability to prioritize, put some software and hardware upgrades, and they would have moved up the leaderboard. At this stage, I would say, through the admin console, I would have seen what the individuals, the 5 or 10 that were playing the game, I'd know what maneuvers they would made. And I would ask 1 or 2 to see, what did you do? What was the value to you as Global Air, as the business? And what maneuvers did you do? And was it a positive impact or a negative impact? And I'd be asking them, well, did you have a clear business intent? There was. That we were the top 200 and we wanted to reduce our revenue for instance down to 5 million. And we were talking about value. DevOps and ITIL talks about value services to your customers. We were talking about the importance of having really good dashboards and MI, availability reports, problem management reports, prioritizing incidents and services according to the value they bring to your business and customers. And that's the learning that the team would have gone through for quarter 1. And at this stage, having gone through those kind of 4 areas there and you see on the screen, I would have said, now let's see how we can apply this to your organization to take that experiential learning from quarters 1 to 3 at the end of rounds 1 to 3 at the end of quarter 1. Do you as an organization have a clear business intent? Do you know the value you can get from ITIL and DevOps? Do you prioritize incidents and services? Do you have good MI and data? Do you understand how you manage service requests? So it brings around learning in for quarter 1 before we move into the next stage of quarter 2. So hopefully I've given you a good demo of what the 3 rounds or 1 quarter would be. And just I'm going to miraculously move you into the end of quarter 4, because we haven't got the time to play 12 rounds, and that's something that we can do later. Is the journey that you would go on through the simulation training is you're turning your immature organization, you're stabilizing it, you're bringing in agility. Agility would be we start by introducing new services, and then you bring in development operations together. And your KPIs, those 4 KPIs, they will trend something like this, as you can see in the slides. So quarter by quarter, round by round, the team that are attending the simulation training are experiencing how to mature IT in the digital context according to the impact that they can make on their customers through technology-driven change. And that experiential learning in a fun, competitive environment is what the simulation training delivers for you as an individual and your organization. But also what you hear from colleagues is different perspectives. You might have operations people and infrastructure people, and they might business people. It brings about different perspectives and learning so that you can build your plan for the future. So let me just ask you if I can, we've still got a few more minutes. I'm going to ask you if I can just let me share with you a quick client story, if I can. Go back into, oh, there we are. Can you still see my slides? There we go. Just a quick if you have a look, this is what a client, I've been through about 3 or 4 workshops with a housing organization, and here are some of the benefits that they've achieved through this simulation training platform. I'm not going to read this through word for word, the words are there, but essentially I've highlighted in the circled in red, this energized the team for change and improvement, and it allowed enhanced breakdown of silos for that collaborative working, so that they were coming together and bringing consensus of what they could do in their organization to bring about the change that they desired. And in this organization, they've been trying to bring about change and getting people together for a number of years. It helped them to understand best practices. It helped them to understand other perspectives in their organization, and it allowed them to absorb the need to always align what they're delivering from a technology perspective to their customers and end users. And it allowed people who might be working in infrastructure operations or in development to understand the bigger picture. It then allowed them to go into doing an agile DevOps pilot and actually delivering that training across other parts of their organization. I'm going to ask you for a little bit of feedback, and I'm conscious we're quite close to the closing time. So I've whizzed through the demo. I've given you a quick client story. I'd love you to go back into Slido, and I'd like to get your instant feedback on the simulation training platform. Just pick 1 or 2 words that you think describes what that training could provide to you, what your initial thoughts are, or words about what it could value, it could bring. Is it around collaboration, around sharing, best practice? Again, go to Slido. There's the barcode. there's the number for the Slido. I hope you haven't moved away from Slido, but if you have, you've got the barcode again. I'd like you to what just give me your thoughts on the transformation simulation training platform and and what I've just demoed you through, just to get your thoughts and your views. And what I'm going to do is just switch over to the I'm going to switch over to the Slido poll so that we can see what and this is a word cloud. So could you just choose a word or two describes your thoughts on the digital transformation simulation training? I know there's a lot of information that I've shared with you, but it'd be great if you just can give me your instant feedback just with a word or two. I know some of you are dropping off because you got mine, but if you could just give me just your thoughts. Co-creative, thank you. Absolutely. It's all about empowerment of people with knowledge, and then they can co-create and develop a plan for change. And Kiara, thank you. She said, great session, great feedback, thank you. It'd be great for those that are still on the call to just give me a word or two that describes what they think. That's Rob, Mayowa, Kevin, and John. Okay, I'm just going to quickly switch back so that you guys know how to contact me. I'd love you to get in touch with me. If you have found the session really useful and would like a free consultation, you can book it on the link there, or please get in touch so that I can maybe do the demo again in a bit slower time, or provide a little bit more detail, as it might be beneficial for you and your organization going forward. Thank you, Kevin. Please do get in touch, Kiara or Kevin. If, as I said, did go quite fast, did go through a lot of information. Please get in touch. You've got all my contact details there. Be greatly appreciated. I hope everybody's enjoying the session. I am going to, we've come to 11 o'clock, so I'm going to put the webinar to a close, and thank you for your attendance. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.